I'm on a mission to turn £10 into £100,000, and I've just spent over £1,000 on stock. Come with me to find out exactly what I've purchased and how much I'm going to make on all of this haul. Now, before I show you some of the amazing bits from this haul, like this backwards compatible PS3, I need to show you some of the items that have sold from the previous videos. So let's hop over to the computer and see how much money we've got in our budget. So, since the last couple of videos, we've had some tremendous sales. If you didn't watch them, or for whatever reason have forgotten what I picked up, in the first video, in this challenge season 2, we spent £400 on a eBay shop buyout, and we've made some decent sales from that. We also spent some money on Facebook Marketplace, and again, have had some excellent sales from that camera haul in last video. But let me talk you through exactly what has sold and how much profit we've made on them. So first of all, I'm on Fliplytics. What I'm going to do is choose a custom tag, and that custom tag is the £400 buyout. Now what this allows me to do is track all of the items in a specific buyout so that I know exactly how much profit I've made on them, how many items I've got left to sell. So on the £400 buyout, so far we've had £702 worth of sales. And on the items that have sold, we've made £335 of profit. Now there are, as you can see, 7 items left to list. So we've listed 24 out of that entire haul. We had 17 products sell so far, which leaves 7 left to sell. And one of those is that sealed Nintendo Wii, which is up for £600. So it's a large chunk of this store buyout. But if we take off the overall original £400 off of this £702, we're left with £302 and 9 pence. Minus the fees, minus the VATs, we're left with about £200 in profit so far from this haul, with the biggest item yet to sell. Now, some of the highlights from this haul. The first one is the Fire. This sold very quickly and sold for £97 and 50 pence, including postage. All of these numbers will include the shipping charges. That cost us £30. eBay took £18 and 21 pence in total fees, which meant our total costs, including the cost of shipping, were £56 and 71 pence, giving us a net profit, including VAT, of £34 and 45 pence. I am VAT registered. I'm on the flat rate scheme, so I do pay 6.5% VAT across my top line sales number, including all postage that has brought into me. Just about doubled up on this, being our original cost of goods of 30, making £34 and 45 pence. The next one, we pieced together a Wii bundle. We sold some of the items separately, some of the more expensive games like the Mario Karts and some of the additional controllers that were there. But this bundle we have sold for £90, including the shipping. I've allocated only a cost of £5, and the reason that is the Wii bundle, I believe, cost us £25, and we got 5 separate listings from that. That means each listing cost £5 each, which means we made £62 and 47 pence profit on this bundle, which was excellent to see. Next up was the highest value recorder. Now, most of the electronics worked, which I was pretty happy to see, considering they were untested. This one had the remote, which added extra value. And it sold for £117.49 pence. It worked out to be £6.25 per unit across the VHS players and combis that I purchased. And naturally, this one is the highest performing ones. A lot of the other ones were more £20 units, so nearing double ups after fees and postage. But this one was a surprise, definitely, which meant we made £80 and 9 pence profit on this singular purchase. The Sony cassette deck. Now this one I couldn't actually fully test, but because it was in the box and it had its manual and it was in excellent condition, I listed it up much higher than any solds and what I thought it would go for. We paid £20 for it and it sold for £157.49. Now I listed it for £150 thinking I'll accept offers at £80 to £100, but it got snapped up within a couple of weeks. Obviously, super happy with that. And yeah, it's just, it baffles me that someone has purchased this, left positive feedback, knowing that it was untested and might not work. But They're happy with it. I guess it's just because it came in the original box. It had the manuals, it had all the instructions, it had all the original cables. And yeah, £96.64 profit on this item. And lastly, in the £400 haul, the speakers, the large Sony speakers, they also sold for £92.50. Now, these did actually cost a lot more to ship than what I charged for them. I believe I charged £7.50. Yeah, shipping price £7.50, when in actual fact it was £7.50 twice because I had to box these up into 2 different boxes. It was a bit of a pain in the bum to ship, but got there, absolutely safe, had the feedback, cost of goods £20, made £45.70 on them. Now, as I said, these are just the highlights of this overall haul, which we're currently a couple of £100 in profit on, with 7 items, including that big ticket Nintendo Wii, left to sell. And from last video's Facebook Marketplace haul, we've had 3 notable sales, and conveniently enough, they are all of the highest value ones from the camera bundle. We've still got the Wii Rock Band left to sell, and that should be pretty pricey when it does. But from the camera bundle, as you can see on the screen here, we have the Canon Ixus 100 IS in the box. That sold for £133.49. It worked out spreading across 4 listings that we managed to get from the camera bundle. It cost £7.50 per listing. We spent £30 on the camera bundle. We got 4 listings, £7.50 each, which went after VAT, fees, postage, all of the numbers. We made £96.84 on this one camera bundle. Now, this one, we also purchased a charger and a replacement battery. So the cost of goods is higher on this, as we did buy those, but naturally it led to a much bigger sale. Next up is the other Ixus digital camera that sold for £103.49. And like the other one, we bought a camera, battery charger setup, which again cost us a little bit more money, meaning the total cost on this one was £35.33, but we made £61 profit on that. So not complaining over a triple up, or nearly a triple up, when we've spent £35 in total. And lastly, the binoculars, which were in disgusting condition, have sold for a whopping £70, including shipping. Took an offer on them, and it meant that we made £46.22 of profit. Now, as I say, we've still got a few items left from the haul. A lot of the cameras had, unfortunately, battery acid in them, as you saw from last video. So what I will be doing is just lotting them up in a big auction with a few of the other cameras that I've got from other purchases, just to see what they go for. But for the purpose of this challenge, these 3 items are included. So I spent £1,100 on the vast majority of what you can see in front of me now. Let's take that off of our total budget to spend and go through exactly what we picked up. So in total, we have 20 VHS combis, and these are higher end models. So they are all Toshiba and Panasonic. They all copy from VHS to DVD. They are all untested, but we have 20 in total. These Toshibas are slightly lower end models, and we paid an average of £22 per unit across all of these. Now, some of them will be damaged, like this one, as you can see there. Some of them will be missing plugs or missing parts, like this. And this is busted in, but £22 average per unit. Spares and repairs, my money is safe. On these Toshiba higher end ones and these Panasonic ones, I should be getting 40 quid spares and repairs on these, if they're broken. Now, working, they should all be around the £100 mark, and there's 20 of them. We've got a backwards compatible PS3, again, untested. You'll know it's backwards compatible because it has the 4 USB ports on the front. That means it plays both PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, which means it holds tremendous value, especially with it being boxed and with its original inserts and manuals inside. If that's working, it will be well over 100 quid. We've got a Crystal Xbox. There are a couple of controllers for this. We paid £20 for this. Again, working should be 60, 70 quid. A boxed PS2 Slim, which we paid 30 for, which again should be around the 70, 80 mark. A ton of handhelds. So there is 20 or so DS Lites, a few 2DSs, a few SPs, a few DSIs, Game Boy Advances, a few PSPs, and a Game Gear. We paid £310 for all of those handhelds. Now, none of them have any chargers, so I've spent about 50 quid on DS Lite chargers that will arrive. And I've got a few DSi and 2DS chargers laying about already. The games at the back here, there are some absolute bangers in, like Obscure. I'll just pan through these and you can point out the ones that are definitely more valuable. We paid 150 quid for all of the video games, plus then a bit extra for the Switch games. So we actually paid £200 for all the video games, including all of the fodder that's in here. Everything in here is what I've deemed not worthy of listing on its own, and this will go towards console bundles. Then we have a load of basic VHS players, DVD recorders. These were a bargain. I paid 20 quid for all of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. 10 with this Humax for 20 quid. This is what he deemed the lower end, worst condition, stuff like that that's rusted on the back. But again, spares and repairs, they should be 10 a unit or 30 to 40 if they're all working. No remotes of any of these. And this PS3. And it's not actually the slim inside, it is another fat PS3, which is not backwards compatible. But the box alone, I should get 15 to 20 quid for. The console inside, at least 15 quid. But that is where my £1,100 spent actually went. Now, deciding how I'm going to list and tackle all of this is super, super important. It's a massive outlay at £1,100 to be spent all in one go. Over the next 2 days, I want to process everything on that table. Now, today's game plan is process everything gaming related as much as possible. And the reason for that is they are very quick and easy listings, which means I can get a lot of value back on the shop very quickly. And what it also means is it will stimulate the other listings on my eBay store by having a load of games go up at once. Now, there are a few bits that are going to take a lot longer, like the VHS combis. They're going to take 10, 15 minutes each one to test, list and clean up and make sure that they're all good. But we're going to tackle all of those tomorrow. Now, the VHS players, they're going to take a bit longer to test. So I'm setting myself the goal to do all of those tomorrow. So that's all of the combis, all of the Humax boxes, all of the recorders, do all of them tomorrow. Focus on gaming today, VHSs tomorrow. And there will definitely be a bit of a time delay with the handhelds because I am waiting for a load of chargers to arrive. Now, I do have some so I can start testing them, but if I want to sell them and get maximum value, I should really add a charger with each one. So I spent 50 quid on a load of chargers that should arrive over the next few days so that I can list all of the handhelds as well. But that's my plan of attack. Once I've got everything listed and processed, I'm going to let you know exactly how much the listed value is of everything. Just a little bit of an update. So far, so good. We've listed 40 video games at £659.50. There have been some absolute bangers. I knew there was some good stuff in here, but I didn't quite realise how good some of it was. So I'll definitely be giving my house clearance guy some more money next time I see him, just to make sure that, you know, keep that relationship sweet, keep the goods coming in. But let me show you some of the highlights. So in terms of PS3, there wasn't any super bangers, but there's some good stuff in there. You know, we've got stuff like Castlevania that should sell quickly. Wet's like a £15 game. The Switch games were all pretty good. Some very standard Wii games that are worth selling on their own, but the PS2 side is where some of the value has been. So this Drakengard 2, that's listed at 55 just because of the condition. But there's just good game after good game after good game. Shinobi, that's another high value. Sly Raccoon, another high value. All the way down to these two at the bottom, Obscure and Devil May Cry 3. Now this Devil May Cry 3 has actually got the slip cover on and the bonus demo game in, so the value is incredible. Same thing with Obscure, that's like a £50, £60 game in the condition that it's in. So there's definitely been some decent bits in here, and quite a lot still to process through. I've only done the one stack that was next to these of the PS2, so there's all of those to go. And then obviously there is a lot of filler, which I'll bundle with consoles, or might take all of these to CEX and see what they give me as a voucher and buy one piece that's going to be a lot more valuable. But overall, although it doesn't look like it, there's been a dent that's been made in the form of some games. So just an update on where we're at. All of these games are yet to be processed, but all of these are fodder. So I'm in two minds of what I want to do with them. I could either chop them all into CEX, I could either hold them for future console bundles, or I could just do bundles of games. And it's the same thing with this stack of PS2 over here. They're all under a £5 or not worth selling individually, for me personally anyway. So I could chop them all into CEX and they'd give me about 50 quid. Alternatively, I might just put them up as one big bundle for like 100 quid. I'm sure they go at that. It works out at like £2 a game or something, £2.50 a game. So they're all done. And then I've just started looking at the handhelds and deciding what I need to order. Now, I'd already ordered a load of cables for these, which I mentioned, that's cost 50 quid. And I've just ordered some batteries and cables for these, which has cost me another £50. We've got two PSP blacks, one pink one, which is the 101, which is slightly higher value. And this one is a PSP 2000 Slim, but it is the Final Fantasy 10th Anniversary Edition. So that is definitely more sought after. I didn't know that. It was in this hard shell case and I just saw a PSP in there. But that on its own, if it's working, will be a oneer, which will be a wicked. But we do need to add an extra £100 for all of the accessories that I've purchased for these bits in terms of cables. Now, I've got a couple of Game Boys here. These don't have backs, but they're not in the best condition. So the plan is test them. If they work, sell them as is working, but on the lower end value. Same with this one. Bit of a scratched up screen. No battery cover. If it's working, great. This one does have its battery cover. Screen does have some scratches, but if this one's working, I'll list that one by itself as working. Luckily they're easy to test because it's just batteries. And then we've got a couple of SPs, which again we're waiting for power supplies to arrive. Cosmetically they both look good, well, if you like whatever those stickers are, but cosmetically they both look good. Hinges are in a good place, but yeah, need to wait for charges for them. That one definitely needs a bit of a clean up. And then the Game Gear itself, I haven't powered this one on yet, but I did have a look in the back and there is Road Rash in here, and this Road Rash game is like 20 quid on its own, so that's pretty good. So we're very nearly wrapped up for the day. I've nearly got everything done that I wanted to. There's still just the Crystal Xbox left to test, but I've done the boxed PS2. I've sorted out the rest of the PS2 games. I've lotted a load of the PS2 games with the boxed PS2, and then also done a job lot of the rest of the games for £110 to see if they go. The only thing that I wanted to do more was just that Crystal Xbox, but time has run out for today, unfortunately. But we've done something like 55 listings for 1,300 quid so far. Super happy with that. But there is still all of this left to process. Obviously, we've got to wait for the cables. Tomorrow's goal is finish up the consoles and then start cracking on with all of the combis. Now, this is what I have got listed, ready to go tomorrow. So there's the boxed PS2 with a few games. That's at 100. I'm selling the box for the backwards compatible console for 30. As unfortunately, it didn't work. The disc reader doesn't read any discs. It does turn on. There's no yellow light of death, which is quite nice. So I've listed that at 50. And then a job lot of those higher, well, lower but reasonable tier games for 110. So there's some decent value that will be going on tomorrow's listing on top of all of the combis and the rest of the consoles that I will crack on with. But yeah, day one in the books. Oh, and 4 of those games have already sold. So a few of the Switch games have sold, and a couple of PS3 games that I listed as well have sold. So it's not bad going. It's not bad going. Tomorrow we crack on with the rest of it. So it's day 2 of this massive buyout project. We've still got loads left to crack on with, but there has been some sales overnight. So let me show you what they are. So we've got a few bits that have sold, which is nice to see. In total, so far from this 1.1k buyout, we've had £125 of profit on £238 worth of sales. That's 9 products that sold. Stuff overnight that sold that I listed yesterday. This PS2 Champions Returns to Arms. This sold for £19.80, including postage. It worked out that the games I listed cost me an average of £4 each. Plus then there's the whole stack that I've listed for 110, but that's where the profit is calculated from, an average of £4 each. The Hyrule on the Switch, that sold for £37.70 all in, £25.75 profit. The backwards compatible PS3 that had disc issues, that sold for £55.99, which resulted in £24.51 profit. Now, this cost me 40 quid with the box. I've associated 20 quid for this and 20 quid for the box as cost of goods, which is where £24.51 profit is left. And then we've also had Manhunt sell. That sold for £22.79 all in, £12.57 profit. And finally, Sly 2 has sold for £35.29 all in, £23.55 profit on that one game. So I'm super happy with, you know, the ROI that we're getting on some of these games, how it's looking so far. Obviously, there's loads more to process, but it's a good start to recouping the initial investment and getting into a profit overall for this entire haul. Now, I am just going to pick up exactly where I left off yesterday, and that is processing the rest of this lot. I'm going to test the Crystal Xbox first, so that should be £60 to £80 with its 2 controllers. And then this PS3 is just a fat PS3 and then the box on its own. So I can sell the box on its own and the fat PS3. Got a Humax there to test. And then it is on to all of these lovely VHS combis. Hopefully, I'm hoping at least half work. If half work, I'll be happy. But my money is safe. And then, eventually, I'll crack on with the rest of these. I think I can test the Game Boys and the Game Gear without having any extra cables. So I'll probably do them today as well. And then the rest that require cables and batteries, I just need to wait until they have arrived. But I'll keep you posted throughout the day when we get updates on what's working, what's not, how much stuff is worth. So that is pretty much all the gaming stuff processed. The Crystal Xbox, chef's kiss, worked beautifully. Both the controllers scrubbed up really nice. I've listed that at £100 or best offer, which is slightly higher than what they normally sell for, but because it's got 2 of the Crystal controllers, aim high, take off and see what happens. The fat PS3 that was in the slim box did not work. That had the yellow light of death, unfortunately. But this is a reasonable condition box. It's got inserts, it's got manuals. I think I'll probably just keep this until I get another box and then sell it with that. But, or I could sell it on its own. Not sure yet. Let me know what you think I should do with that. I also, you'll notice the Game Gear is missing. I tested the Game Gear. It did not work as suspected with a Game Gear. They often break. So I've listed that spares and repairs for 30 quid, but inside was a game called Road Rash, which I've also listed for 15 on its own. So even even not working, it's some reasonable money. And now it's time to tackle the VHSs. So wish me luck. Now, sadly, this might be the point in the video where things turn for the worst. This full stack of Toshiba combis. Guess how many of them work? If you guess 0 in that millisecond, you are correct. None of them work. Which is why I stress so much about buying stuff at a price where even if it's broken, you'll still make money, or at bare minimum, break even. All of these cost me £22 each. They sell from £40 to £60 depending on the fault. Now, some of them, they're faults they don't power on. Some of them, the VHS the VHS side doesn't work, or some of them, the DVD side doesn't work, but they've all got various faults. Now, they do sell very quickly when I put them on. There's definitely a couple of buyers who watch my shop who buy them because I sell them so consistently. So what I'm probably going to do is see if there's anyone local first that wants to come and pick them up, because obviously posting all of them is going to be a bit weighty and a bit of a pain in the bum. But I know worst case that if I put all of them on for 50 quid each today, they'd probably all sell for 40 to 45, which means even if I make a tenner per model, is it worth the time? Probably not. But was it worth the risk of, if they do work, you know, being £100 each? Absolutely. But it's just the same as buying from a car boot. It's all unchecked, it's all untested. You know, the condition on them isn't fantastic, and I rolled the dice and unfortunately didn't get the max win on this one, but you know, we'll still make money. But it begs the question, how many of these are Panasonics and how many of these Toshibas are going to work? This one, probably not so much, but it will be interesting to see how many of the rest of the table work. Oh, hey, we've got our first working ones, and it's one of the Panasonic DMR EZ49Vs. These are £100 all day. Both the VHS and the DVD side is working. So let's get that VHS tape out of there before anything goes wrong. But well, at least we've got one that's working. Hopefully, the rest of those ones work as well. Fingers crossed. Is it going to eject? Oh, I just stopped. I didn't press eject. Last test is make sure the tape comes back out, not chewed up. Yes. And it's got Lord of the Rings in there as well. Because if you're going to test something, you might as well watch something that you enjoy at the same time, right? 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 Now, we're all in this game for one thing, right? And that's to make as much money as possible and be our own boss, live the dream, escape the matrix, etc. But on the topic of making as much money from each sale as possible, I just want to run you through a few things that go through my mind when I'm trying to maximize the sale. So right now, this Panasonic unit would just be unit only. But I keep in stock brand new HDMIs, brand new SCARTs, brand new power supplies that I bundle with each one. But the biggest thing that would put someone off from buying this is the lack of remote. So when I get items that don't work, I keep them on one side, the remotes, so that I can pair them up with units that do work. But it got me thinking, should I be buying them to add value? And I was just looking at solds, and I should be able to get 100 to 110 like this. But what happens if I, one, got the remote and added it into this? How much would that cost? But two, also printed off an instruction manual. How much do you reckon I could get? So looking at the computer, the instruction manual is printable online. I have a very decent printer that I could print them off. I worked it out. I crunched the numbers. It would cost me about £1.50 in ink to print off a 100-page manual to add with the parcel. And I could buy an aftermarket remote for about £7. But then it got me thinking, well, obviously people are buying these and making money on them. Where are they getting them from? Well, they're getting them from places like AliExpress or Temu or whatever. And this here is 79 pence. So it's got me thinking, maybe I should order a load of these, keep them as spares, but also list them at the side in case any sell. Now, obviously, I'd only make like a couple of quid because these are all free posts. So take off like £2.80 or £3.50, left with like £3, £4. Take off the cost of goods at 79 pence, £3. Take off fees, £2.50 profit per unit, something along those lines. But if I've always got them in stock because I'm always buying stuff like this, maybe I should just get them from somewhere like AliExpress. Let me know in the comments if that's something that you would kind of do. It makes sense to me, right? If I'm going to print off a load of paper, it costs me about £1.50. Even if I got a remote from eBay, let's say worst case scenario, I've put an extra tenner into it. Well, could I ask 140 quid, 150 quid? There are examples of solds of that specific unit at £150 with manuals and controllers. So it stands to reason that an extra £10 investment would net an extra 50 quid. And then I think to myself, would I spend £10 for an item that's worth 50 quid? Yes, I would. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put them to one side. This time around, I'm going to get remotes from eBay just because they're going to be here a lot quicker. But I'm also going to order a load of remotes from AliExpress. Once I've gone through all of the rest of them, I can see how many exactly I need, and then maybe list them on the shop because it might just be an extra revenue. And it's also got me thinking, what other bits can I bring in? HDMI cables. Well, I normally buy them from a wholesaler in the UK. Same with SCART leads, same with power cables. So I'm probably going to go down a rabbit hole and place an AliExpress order. Now, I do think I need to keep the order under like 150 quid to avoid import fees, but it will be an interesting experiment anyway. But let me know, is this something that you do? Is it something you recommend? Any experience with? Or am I just going on an ADHD rabbit hole, which might be likely, who knows? So we've gone through every single VHS combi and we paid £22 each. We've got 20 of them, which meant we spent £440 on all of the combis. And unfortunately, it's very sad to say that only 4 of them fully work. And that's these 4 Panasonics up here. Now I've separated them because what I'm going to do is get remotes for each one and print off manuals for each one. They're slightly different models. There's the EZ49V, 47V and 48V. So slightly different spec for each one, but there's 4 there and they should get hopefully 130 to 150 pound each by the time I've got remotes and manuals. So if we add in an extra 40 quid of cost to all of these, it's 480 pound because of the extra remotes and printing and all that kind of stuff. So my money is safe, as in all of these will get me my initial investment back at least and make a little bit of money. You know, if I get 150 each, minus the fees, minus the VAT, I'm basically breaking even just on those 4. And then we've got stacks of broken ones. Now, these Toshibas, I should be able to get 40 to 50 pound each. These Toshibas are more like 20 to 30 pound each. And then these two Panasonics, I'm unsure on what to do with one of them. This bottom one, this one here actually works fully, but it's just the SCART lead that doesn't work. Sorry, it's just the HDMI that doesn't work. The SCART lead does work. So it plays both sides, but the SCART is the only output. So it's not fully spares and repairs. This one doesn't work. So my plan is to reach out to a few people who I know who buy these spares and repairs. Hopefully I can get an average across all of these of 30 quid back, which would mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So if I can get £300 back off of all of these, it means that overall I've just about doubled up or just under doubled up on the combis. And considering the vast majority are broken, that's not the worst outcome. Obviously, losing money would be the worst outcome, but still making a profit, pretty decent. Obviously, I've got to actually try and get rid of all of these. Now, if I can get £50 each on eBay for these, well, there's 400 quid there, but then minus fees on eBay. So I'm thinking of going directly. And if I can at least get 30 quid average across them, it should be good. These ones should be more like 40 quid average. The Toshibas bring down that average there, or these Toshibas do. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, that's a suspicious amount of broken ones, but I've bought from the contact before. I've had it the other way where loads of them have worked and hardly any of them are broken. And I do know everything is genuinely untested. The scale of this gentleman's operation is ridiculous. And there's so many electronics, so many goods, so many different avenues that I can go down. Obviously, these are just got unlucky. You know, he might have potentially bought a batch off of someone that unknowingly is spares and repairs. That might have happened, and then they've come to me. But at the end of the day, you know, it's not a total loss. I'm going to make some money on them. And overall, on the entire haul, we're doing pretty well so far. We've already listed £1,100, £1,200 worth of stuff. That was just yesterday. And we still have all of the glorious handhelds to go through. And there's 30 odd here. So even if I get £20 average across the board, there's 600 quid there, just sat in handhelds, which when you think there's SPs, DS Lites, like the PSPs, this beautiful PSP, you know, the average of these is going to be more than 20 quid. And we've got all of these, and we've got all of these. So I'm not too concerned. I think my maths was off in that last clip. If I can get £30 average across 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 15 of them, that's 450 quid, not 300 quid. So for any of you who commented that a little bit too soon, yeah, I caught you out. But overall, my thoughts on this haul in general, would I do it again? Yes, absolutely. If I run through the numbers, I spent £1,100. I've listed £1,100 worth of gaming equipment already, and some has already sold through. The VHS combis, the £600 on the shelf there. Spares and repairs should get £400 to £500. So let's call it £1,000 for the VHS combis is what I'll get back. Average handhelds, if I get £20 a handheld, there's £600 there, so there's £1,600. And then the rest of the VHSs, there's a Humax box and the fodder games. There's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 standard VHS players, DVD recorders. Let's say a tenner on average there. Fodder games, that's, you know, an extra 50 quid. I've lost count. But overall, it is at least a clear double up. 1,100, 21, yeah, 26, 27. There's probably around £3,000 worth of listed value, all said and done, after everything's tested and working. Now, we may be on the higher end of that if the consoles all work. If the handhelds all work, then we might be at 30, 40 quid average across all of those handhelds, which will be really nice to see and definitely bump up how much money was made from this haul. I'm going to input everything onto the Fliplytics tracker, and then as everything sells in upcoming videos, I'll update you on how much profit we've made in the £10 to £100,000 challenge, but also on this haul specifically. I can tag all of the items with both tags and show you as everything sells and do some updates in kind of sales videos as well. Now, I'm sure a few of you will be wondering how many of these items have actually sold. Was the £1,100 purchase actually worth it in the first place? Well, luckily for you, this part of the video is filmed a few weeks later, so I can show you some of the sales from today's video. Now, in total on the screen, as you can see, we have had £3,100 worth of sales from this haul. It cost us 1.1k, take off fees, take off VAT. We're about £1,500 in the green so far. Now, on the items that have actually sold, accounting for their actual cost that I paid per item, we're £1,308 of profit on those 85 items that have sold. We still have 12 items left, which will make up the extra couple of £100 when they do sell. So let me show you some of the stats. What really impressed me about this haul, and granted it was mid-November, so the build up to Christmas was in full flow, the average time to sell across all of these items was 8 days, 8.2 days, which makes me super happy with that sell-through rate. If I can be anywhere under 30 days, I'm happy with that. But to be under 10, that's fantastic. The average transaction value of this haul was £36.48. Now, considering the volume of video games that I listed, I'm pretty happy with that. You can see the bulk of the sales came from November, with a few more at the beginning of this month in December. The return on investment is at 83.31% so far. As I say, we've got a few more. So after all things are said and done, I would imagine we will be 110, 120% return on investment across the entire haul. But let me take you through a few of the sales that have actually sold. So one of the highlights on the PS2, and I showed you this earlier in the video, Drakengard 2. All of these games were in particularly good condition. The discs did not need resurfacing. They were minimal or no scratches, and most of them were complete, so I could charge a bit of a premium. I allocated £4 cost of goods across all of the video games, so that was the total that I paid for the games, divided by how many I had equals £4, or divided by how many listings I got from the video games equals £4 per game. After all said and done, this sold for £57.79, netting £40.54 profit on this singular game. That does include VAT, that does include fees, that does include postage. The only thing that doesn't include will be my corporation tax, but that obviously is a bigger picture outside of this challenge, and I would account for things such as rent, mileage, etc., when it comes to that. Next up, Sly Raccoon, also another game that you want to be on the lookout for. This sold for £36.30, including postage, £22 profit on that singular game. The Final Fantasy PSP, this sold for full asking price at £100 plus the postage, giving us £73.43 of profit there. We did buy a couple of extra batteries for the PSPs. Now the 3 black ones I lotted up and they did sell as spares and repairs as a bundle. We doubled up on them, and the pink one worked. We sold that one separately and made about £30 on it. But the Final Fantasy one, that was a really nice surprise and a nice find. Another game to be on the lookout for on the PS2 is Monster Hunter. This sold for £35.29, netting us a penny shy of £20 profit. The other PS2 games I mentioned that I was going to lot them up in a bundle to see if I could sell them just because of the condition, and I did. I lotted them up for £110. They sold for £100 plus £7.50 in shipping. No, they didn't. They cost £3.50 in shipping. Someone offered £104 on this bundle, and they went GSP to a game seller who will break them up and sell them, but it was cheaper for him to port them. So yeah, really appreciate that deal. Next up is one of the VCR combis. Now this was one of the lower end models, the EZ47V. This sold for £117.50 plus including the postage, which meant £61 profit on this. Now I did go ahead and buy remotes. I did on one of them print out the instruction manual, but it was 100 pages and my printer started smoking, so I thought probably best not to print all of them because I don't want a fire. But £61 profit after the cost of the goods of the machine and the cost of buying an additional remote. Next one up, the boxed PS2. I bundled in some of the games that were in this PS2 lot and added them in here. Allocated a cost of £20, which is what I paid for the PS2. Gave me £59 of profit after it sold for £106.64. Next up on the list were the two Game Boy Advances. Now, one of them worked, one of them didn't, but they were very cosmetically flawed, so I bundled them both up together as a job lot at £65 plus the postage, and that's exactly what they sold for. Gives me £31.51 profit after everything. And considering they were spares and repairs, super happy with that. Here's the combi that I printed off the manual that nearly cost me my entire business through fire. It didn't, thankfully, but that sold at a whopping £151.50. I had it for 150. Someone offered 147 plus the £7.50, 144 plus the £7.50, £151.50 sales. £78.60 in profit. Obviously quite a high cost of goods on that because we had the paper, we bought a remote, cost of shipping, cost of the actual unit, but overall super happy with making 226% return on investment. Next up, the Crystal Xbox. I listed it for 100 and it sold for 100. Super happy with that, as again, I listed it high, took good pictures, made sure that I cleaned it up as best as possible, purchased for 20, sold for 100, £54.44 of profit on that item. Here we are, the pink PSP that I mentioned earlier. This sold at quite a high price at £63.49. The pink ones in general are harder to come by, particularly PS2s and any other colour variants of consoles. You'll typically get more money for them. £36 profit on this unit. And definitely one of the PS2 highlights. I think this was the highest selling game. Obscure on the PS2. This sold for £52.80. So it was 50 quid plus the £2.80 shipping, giving us £33.24 profit on that game. One of the SPs sold, well, they both sold, but this one sold for a little bit higher because it's in better condition. Sold for £63.49, giving us £32.25 profit. The cost of goods a little bit higher on these 15, as I paid a £5 per cable to bundle with them. And last up, just another banging PS2 game. So this was Shinobi and it sold for £37.79, giving us nearly £22 in profit. So overall, super happy with how many items we got from this haul, how much profit we've made on it, and also how quickly it turned around. Like, it nearly all sold within, as you can see there, less than 10 days. So to have a double up, a clean double up after VAT, after fees, after post in 10 days, super happy with that. If I can keep fostering that relationship with my house clearance contact, keep getting bigger and bigger hauls, who knows where my business might go in the future. If you did enjoy today's video, make sure you click that red button that says subscribe, because if you made it this far, you probably did enjoy it, and that would mean the world to me. So I really do appreciate you watching this video. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and a happy New Year. I'll catch you in the next video.